This is the A-Xii Podcast, episode 2. Bailey, we have a uber special guest right now. Introduce him.
We're going to have to do something with I can't hear anything over the music.
There you go. How's that?
Music is bumping.
Is the music on now?
No, it's off now. I can't hear you talking when you have the music going, though.
All right. Something will learn. So that was good for the audience only, and now introduce our guest.
Awesome. Yeah. So we got Connor Schissler, my brother-in-law here.
What?
It's weird to say that now, isn't it?
I know, right? It really is. We were joking about that earlier. Super awesome. Connor is a professional card breaker, works for We the Hobby, and that's how he spends most of your late night evenings, right? You're on stream opening packs.
Well, yep. 7 p.m. to 4 a.m. Thursday through Sunday. I'll tell you what, it's a blessing. It's a lot of fun. It's definitely different, but it's a lot of fun.
Connor, when you were wrestling in high school, did you think you'd eventually have your resume in the first line say on-air talent?
Nope.
Yeah.
That was definitely not the plan of attack. You know, I was always kind of like a business-minded kid, I would say. And my goal, it's funny, I was kind of thinking back to it the other day. My goal was to be, I remember watching Wolf of Wall Street. I don't know if you guys have ever seen the movie.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
I
very
wanted
much.
to be a stockbroker so bad since that day on. So I was the weirdest kid. Everybody wanted to be a professional football player. They wanted to be an astronaut. I wanted to be a stockbroker. That was my goal.
Would you watch that movie when you were like 16 years old?
Yeah, probably right around there.
I have one other idea why you might have wanted to be the Wolf of Wall Street after watching that movie, but it's not that. No, and again, I think from this kind of goes out to our Vibes audience, and we've got a little crew here in town through the magazine, but just the thing that we always like to do, Connor, slow roll it back a little bit. Like Watertown, kind of like you have your life as a kid, you go off to college. Is it a Reese's peanut butter chocolate kind of peanut butter thing? How do you find yourself into what you do for a living right now?
That's a great question. So kind of just like an overview of like myself. I mean, Bailey, you guys probably know most of the story, but somebody that doesn't. So
Exactly.
grew up in Watertown, loved it there, but I was ready to kind of, start something over. And I was, my sister, Bailey's wife, really got me into fashion as a kid. And I really wanted to do something within that field. So I ended up doing 2 years in community college at A-Xii Community College, which is a well-known fashion school. Shoot, lost you. I'm back.
That's awesome.
Well-known fashion school. But I also I played lacrosse too, so they were really good at lacrosse. It was kind of hand in hand there, no brainer for me. Learned that it really wasn't my passion and ended up transferring after my 2 years, graduated with my associates. Transferring to Roberts Wesleyan, a small Catholic school in Rochester. Did my undergrad in business admin. During my COVID year, I graduated during COVID in 2020, and I was blessed to have also still played lacrosse. And my coach approached me and said, hey, because COVID happened, you're granted an extra year of eligibility. So if you want to apply that to your master's for your scholarship, then you're more than welcome. And I was like, hey, that's perfect. So I rolled it over. I got my MBA at Roberts, stayed there 2 years. And it was funny because one of my really good buddies, how it kind of got into card breaking, 19, we were on a lacrosse trip down in Long Island, and he was getting in these card breaks. And I was like, I don't even know what the heck that is. I know what football cards are, but I didn't really know what it was. So I started watching, and he's like, basically, they take a really expensive box, and instead of you buying that box, you can buy a team within the box. Let's say you're a huge,
Gotcha.
like for you guys' example, I know that everybody's a Niners fan over there, so you can just buy the Niners within that product. For, like, let's say it's a $5,000 box, you can buy them for $100, and any 49er that comes out of that product would get shipped to you. And I just thought that was a really cool breakdown for it. As somebody that, like I said, business minded, you set your margins going into it. For the consumer, you're buying either A, the players that you like, B, the players that you think are gonna go up in value, or just see what the best value is going into the break. So I really got taken away by it after that night, and I decided, you want to know something? I'm going to start doing that myself. So I did it on the side with my buddy in 2019, and we were doing it on Facebook with a group of maybe 1,000, 2,000 people, and there were two other what's called breakers, the people that buy the product and open it. There were two other breakers on it. Now, when COVID happened, it was it's kind of crazy to say, it's an oxymoron, but it was a perfect storm for the card industry because first
Totally.
off, you have a great you had a great draft class because your rookies are really what sells. So 2020 for football, you have Justin Herbert, you have Joe Burrow, Tua was a big name, Jordan Love, list goes on. Jalen Hurts just won the Super Bowl, right? And then for
Just huge quarterback classes came out. Like yeah, right.
Right. And on top of that, I mean, even then you have Jerry Jeudy, you have Henry Ruggs. I know it's kind of a weird subject now, but in 2020, he was a huge name coming out of Alabama. And then you also had basketball. You had Zion Williamson, and you had Tyrese Halliburton, and then John Morant. You know, they were huge names. And the biggest thing is, Brian, you could probably attest to this. Back in the late '80s, early '90s, everybody collected cards. It was a huge boom, and
100%. Yeah.
companies like Topps, like Fleer, and Don Russ, what they did was instead of really hone in and make it more exclusive they pumped out as many cards as they possibly could.
Right.
For example, your Ken Griffey Jr. I mean, one of the biggest baseball names ever. His rookie cards aren't really worth it because there's a million of them. And that's what really collapsed the market going into the mid 90s. Now, fast forward into 2020, the market was murdered. I mean, it was terrible. Then 2020 came along. Everybody wasn't working. They were at home. And all those kids from the 80s and the 90s are now adults, and they have kids that were their age when they were collecting. They pulled out their own collections. They got their stimulus checks, and all of a sudden it exploded. So we got in at the perfect time because we went from that group being 1,000 to 2,000 people with only 2 breakers in it. We still only had 2 breakers in it. We were in it in 2019. November of 2019, there was about 1,000 to 2,000 members. By May, there was about 54,000 members in our group, and we were just pumping out breaks. And it was a lot of fun,
No, it's amazing. And what it makes me think about, Connor, is it makes me think about how these small economies are created. And what you're talking about there is very interesting because at that same time, you had it makes me think of the stimulus checks, and a lot of people started getting into some day trading, some crypto trading, and then it sort of like squeezes out of the people that are either sort of like playing around the game, and then the people that actually monetize the game. And now it's like a real life. For me, I've always looked at it that way, whether it be Star Wars trading cards, whatever it may be. Bailey will tell you this is, I think my brother's the classic one. He's got he hates me telling it, but he's got, $2 million comic book collection in Mylar. And so the thing about, and then it's got this market economy, it's got these, it reminds me so much of the stock market, which is a lot of times if a market's down, it's a time to hold and or buy.
Exactly.
And then you wait for a pickup. But I think the companies, like you said, have gotten very sophisticated with it now. And I think like everything else, just like I'll use the crypto example again, is the reason that, Bitcoin is so basically kind of the leader because there's a limited supply, right?
Exactly.
And they've gotten really smart. We used to get so many cards, and I'll give you one example of like a Joe Montana rookie card. I had so many of those in my room that we would eventually get them, put 2 of them together and get a paper, a clothesline clip and put them on our bikes to make it sound like a muffler. And these are rookie cards because I mean, how many Joe Montana rookie cards does a human need in 1979? And the answer is like not 30, and right. So, but I do think they got really smart with it. I'm fascinated by it. And I think, it's funny that, I always look at COVID, and COVID for your generation in particular, I think it's this historically, I think you're going to look back on it, and it really was kind of an amazing time where kids your age, 2 things happened. One of them is I think they got disillusioned with the opportunities that was going to be there for them that wasn't, the whole classic thing is like, do better than your parents did. And you guys are looking around at one point going like, how the fuck do we do that?
Right.
The opportunity is just not there. And I'm not saying it's in but the science of what you're talking about makes sense to me. Even that one, I had no clue till you said it, that you could invest in boxes that way. Because then let's say I'm a 49ers guy, because that's where my passion is. Well, within that, like that's the macro is the 49ers. Within the micro, you're
be your
looking
players.
for that hologram rookie card of that dude, and now you basically put in your $500 to be part of a big set or whatever it is, and maybe you pop a $7,000 card or whatever.
Exactly.
That's
Sure.
the game, right?
100%. I mean, that's right on the money, and that's what really sucked me into it. I like the way that you compared it to like Bitcoin and stock trading.
Yeah.
And that's why I fell in love with it, because I not only, you can look at it three different ways, and that's how I say it, and none of them are wrong. All of them are the right way. You can look at it as a collector, you can look at it as an investor, and you can look at it as both. And I picture it as both, and it's my lifestyle now, so it absorbs my life. But I love it. I mean, for example, I'll give you a prime example. Jalen Hurts, gold RPA. I had picked it up at the National, which is a huge card show in Cleveland. About 100,000 people show up to it every year. I picked up his gold Prism RPA at the National, rookie patch autograph, numbered to 10. So there's only 10 of this card. I picked that up. I'm not a huge believer in Jalen Hurts, but at the time he was so cheap in comparison to Joe Burrow and Justin Herbert, I thought it was a no-brainer. I had picked that card up for $3,500. And last week I had sold it for $9,600. So just like that.
Yeah,
I mean, I flipped
Super
it.
Bowl
And then,
MVP helps, right?
Yep,
Super Bowl
exactly.
MVP helps.
exactly. And then I take that, and I can either A, reinvest it, I can B, turn it into something that I personally like, or C, I have that money to play with. So it's a really neat concept, especially on the bigger level. And there are so many different variations too. Like you have your penny stocks, like your lesser rookie cards of that same player. Like their silver Jalen Hurts rookie in a PSA 10, maybe at the point was $50. You can sell it now for $100. I mean, it's really a neat way to go about investing in something that you can get a very, very solid return on really quick if you're smart with the game, and you can have it physically in your hand, where like stocks you don't. It's like a more fun way to invest in stock. That's how I look at it.
It is.
Yeah,
It is. And then the trippy thing, Bailey, I'm a terrible father, but I know that over a period of time, we collected enough cards that we were giving Pokemon cards out for Halloween because we had so many sitting around us. Do you remember that, or were you too young for that?
I remember
we had
Taylor's big collection of Pokemon cards, and then you would help me collect Yu-Gi-Oh! Is the big thing when I was into it. Yeah.
Did you keep any of those? Are those in our storage, or do you have any clue?
I don't have any of them. I remember looking through them in the storage because there's a bunch of baseball cards that I had Connor go through to see if there's anything worth it. Yeah. And it was funny.
And that's right. That's the kind of stuff that I love too, is like every era, like you had brought up Joe Montana. It's sport cards are goofy, and luckily, like I would feel as if I'm kind of an expert in it. From 87 is the 86, 87 is your start to the junk wax era. Anything prior, I mean, it definitely be big money. So, I mean, you have Ricky Henderson in 78 because it wasn't mass produced, and it wasn't heavily, and at that time.
I'm gonna have some shit for you to look at, because I've got some in storage that are. Again, here's the thing. My tragic story is very similar to Bailey's Silk Road story with Bitcoin.
Bitcoin.
Have you ever heard that story, Connor?
I have, yes.
It's like it reminds me of, there's a dude I think that just bought. Have you heard about that guy that bought the landfill, Bailey?
No.
He did you hear that, Connor? That story a little bit, that
when he had the I'll let you explain it, but yes.
No, he lost his
girlfriend, threw it away. He like a dude, like all dudes clean up their room. He had it in a garbage bag, all of his important shit in a garbage bag. And she throws it away. They locate the landfill, and like finally he's like, fuck it, and he just bought the landfill. Like it's an $800 million hard drive. Yeah,
exactly, somewhere.
That now he knows it's in one spot. Yeah. But that's Bailey's Silk Road story, and I think Yu-Gi-Oh! The funny thing with Yu-Gi-Oh! Is we had a really good collection, because I would go down there when the stores opened, and I'm as bad about it as Bailey. But I have too much of myself in me, so a lot of my brother's collection, Connor, was sold. Like I had Incredible Hulk, a comic book series. I had like 117 through 250, which now tens of thousands of dollars, mint condition, sold on a Friday night for $40 in beer money, because that was my priority.
I mean, you just don't know. Like I hear those stories. So I mean, it's so
for a lifetime.
Like a similar story. My grandfather, right? He obviously knows I do this for a living, and he was a huge baseball collector back in the 50s. And big Yankees fan, so you probably know where I'm going with this. And
I know where you're going.
Last the owner of the Arizona Diamondbacks had bought the second, only 2 copies exist, second PSA 10 Mickey Mantle Topps rookie for 15 million. And my grandpa sent me the article, and he's like, I used to have a bunch. And I would do the same thing what you said he did with
Yeah.
with your Joe Montanis. He'd put them in the bike spokes and run
Put
them
them in bike
wild. And I
spokes.
was like, that
Yep.
makes me sick to my stomach.
Are you guys, did they ever in any incarnation of you, or do they retro anymore? Do you get, this is so old of me, but they don't do bubble gum anymore, do they? Do they do
No,
any bubble gum in the,
it's a totally different game now. No, it comes, I mean, especially in the product that we rip, very high end, our average, I would say our low tier that, Nick and I rip. I love Series 1. This was still my favorite stuff. I don't rip enough
is that
hockey,
so,
though. I don't get to rip
is
it.
hockey, here's the thing, and while I'm opening this, because I told Bailey, I said, we're having this fucker on. I said, we've got to open up some cards while he's
Oh, we
on.
have to. I know. I wish I
But
would have
here's
bought some.
But here's the thing: is that Connor, everything is sold out. I went to my
I know.
comic book store.
I tried to get
I
some
went
too.
to Target. I went to Best Buy.
It's so
No one
tough.
had anything. And then eventually, I think this was like in a CVS, and
Right.
it was kicked to the side by like somebody had sat it there with like some laundry detergent. And
There's
so I
got to be
think
something good in there then.
Just a
people.
leftover.
Well, I mean, I figure it's hockey, and I don't even know if these are. So you guys keep talking. I got a ton. So, for instance, in this, what like if I rifle through, what am I looking for? If there's any, am I looking for a hologram? Am I looking for what?
So hockey's a little bit, like I said, I don't rip too much hockey, but you're looking for your young guns. I mean, that's your biggest chase, and Connor Bedard
Sure.
is the biggest chase in that product.
Okay.
For
Yeah.
the Chicago White Sox. He's like, I think he's the only guy that I know in that class. And those sell pretty well. I mean, well over 1,000. But I am not 100% sure about hockey at all. Like I said,
Connor,
my bread and butter is baseball, basketball, and football, and that's all. Well, it's funny. Oh, so going back to kind of how I found this company, after me and my partner had kind of blown up and we were just ripping,
yeah,
we had gone through a lot, and I was just running this through Venmo, PayPal, and Cash App on Facebook. So end of year comes around in 2022, and I'm working at a pizzeria making $30,000 a year, but
yeah.
the IRS thought it was funny that I brought in almost 200,000 in revenue. And, and I didn't know how to explain myself. So I explained to them. I was terrified. I was absolutely terrified. But I explained to them that, I'm running this, blah blah blah. And they were like, okay, well, you need to go get an LLC. You need to file it under that, and we'll go from there.
We want
They're
the
like,
tax.
it's
Yeah.
fine this year. We'll figure it out. But this
Oh
upcoming
wow.
year, if you're going to take this seriously, you got to lock in. So I had an
Yeah.
option, to really, I was getting my master's still. I was just finishing it up. I had an option to kind of call it quits or run with it. And that's what I did. I ran with it, and I quit the pizza shop, and I was doing that full time. I was coaching at this point because it was my 6th year. So I didn't have another year of eligibility. I was coaching at night and breaking during the day, and we just do the same cycle every day. So fast forward to April, and I didn't know what I wanted to do. I was finishing my master's, and it was funny because I got a job in pharmaceutical sales down near Kenzie and Bailey in St. Pete's, and I was like, that's honestly like a perfect fit. Like
Yeah.
I would love
Yeah.
that. That same night I got that job offer. I Me and my buddy were still doing breaks, and he was like, hey, this company called We the Hobby, which is they're distributor of product. Because like you said, so you can there are a couple of tiers of sport cards. You have your retail product, which you're ripping right now, that you can get at Target, you can get at Walmart, all that other places. And then you have your hobby boxes, which are you're guaranteed your autographs, much, much more expensive. But that's where you get
Gotcha.
your really big chases. That's what we were buying, and you can only really buy it on a couple of certain sites.
You're not buying it
So
from Tops? Is it
you
being
can't.
resold
No,
or
only I think
okay?
it's only from like Steel City. Only on online. You can only get it from those type of places.
Interesting. Okay.
So, or like your card shops. You can go to card shops and get
Yeah.
them, but you're paying a little
Yep.
more. So, my buddy had told me, hey, I'm scrolling on Instagram and I see this ad for a company called We the Hobby. It's here in Rochester, and they're selling products. And I was like, perfect. I can just drive, pick up the product, come back, and break it the next day. So that's what I did. I set up an account with them. This was in April, and we did that for a month, and it was great. And then the owner of We the Hobby approached me and was like, "Hey, in reminder, I was not breaking. I'd never been behind the camera. I was just backing. I was just paying for it.
Wow.
I was doing all that kind of stuff. I was having my buddy break for me.
Okay.
So the owner, Zach Stanley, he approached me and he's like, "Hey, you're a young kid. You've got a good presence. I think you do really well behind a camera. We're really thinking about breaking now instead of just distributing product. Would you be interested?"
They hadn't started yet. Huh.
And I had thought to myself, I'm like, I don't even care what this guy offers me. If I take this, my mom is going to kill me. I just got my master's and she thinks I'm going to be opening cards for a living. So he shot me the offer and, I looked at my future and I'm like, I'm so young. I love it here in Rochester. Let's do it. So I signed up and here we are now. I went from the 9th employee to I think we're at about 150. In this past year, we did a little over 100 million in revenue. So,
I'm going to try to share something here. I was trying to show just to get a sense of this. I think this might give us a little sense of. I know it's not you, but I think this is We the Hobby, and I don't know if this is pulling up. But hopefully, is that sharing?
No, I don't see it yet.
No, I don't.
Hold on, I'll share it. Hold on.
Oh boy!
Let me share the screen. Wait, is that sharing?
That is.
Yeah, we're seeing it now.
Oh, is this it? Right on.
This was a while back.
Okay, but it gives people a good sense, right?
It does.
Yeah, just that high energy, fun.
What's a double unicorn? I want to find out.
Yeah, so if you guys want to finish it, for sure, I'll let you guys.
I do. Hold on, I want to see this.
It's an older video, okay? I'm not like this all the time.
No, I understand.
I haven't seen this in so long. This is probably a year or two old now.
Right. And I'm sorry, I just kind of scrambled for anything off of it. I think it was.
No, it's fine. I love it.
Dude, it's so intense.
Your size, Nick.
Look at. All right.
It's so cringy. Oh man,
that's so good.
Fun.
That is so good.
So those big boxes, that is our own product that we make in house.
Okay,
that's called Pantheon. So basically, you have your sealed wax, like what you just stripped. And then after you pull a really nice card, you can send it off for grading. You know how it is with comics. You send it off to grading to this company called PSA or BGS. There's also SGC. But they grade it on a scale of 1 to 10 depending on condition. So those are guaranteed hits. Oh my goodness, this phone. Those are your guaranteed hits.
My favorite part of the podcast is that thing falling every time.
It's every time. You want to know what? I'm going to take this off the charger. That's going to be better. It's not going to fall anymore. So yeah, those are all of it. They're guaranteed hits. Your floor is, meaning the cheapest card you're going to find in that is $500. Your guaranteed ceiling is $3,000. They're a $5,000 box, and they go from there.
Okay.
And we have different tiers. So other nights, we'll run our chase card, which is called a unicorn. We also have super corns, which range from 8,000 to 20,000, and we go from there. So it's pretty cool. It makes it a lot more enjoyable for our consumers, knowing that there's at least going to be something that really good that comes out of
something exciting.
There's no doubt. And I'll give credit. Go ahead, Dave.
I was going to say, when you guys are opening those packs right there, in that your chat, you guys are selling those cards live at the same time, or did they just go onto your site later, or is there
it's already pre-filled. So we break on an app called So we break on two apps right now. We have our Fanatics side, which is mainly baseball, but we also have a football channel on that, a little lower end stuff, and then we have our Whatnot side, our main channel, which Nick is the one with the really long beard. He's been with me since day one. Nice. But every single break at auction for a single dollar. And it's a random team. So I have a team deck of cards, 32 cards representing the 32 NFL teams. After you win an auction, you give me a number 1 through 32 or 1 through 30. How many are left? I flip the card, and whatever team is on it, they get within all of the product that's shown in front of them.
Very cool.
If that makes sense.
I think I think it does. It totally makes sense. And I'll give credit. Even watching you there, clearly it's all dopamine. And then it is, because the thing, you watch these unboxings, we all watch them, and they have different levels of it. But that one is, I'll give it credit. It's highly produced. You've got the personality for it. I think because it's one thing, there's an unboxing and then there's that sort of showmanship, right? Because clearly you guys are you still the same team right now? Are you still together?
Yes, we are. Yep. Same guy
It's great.
for almost 3 years now. So
Amazing chemistry. And so you
it
guys
is. I
are, you're
appreciate it.
building this thing, and it's got a little WWE in there too. It's
Yeah.
got a little bit of, it's clearly a character. That's not like how you're ordering movie tickets when you go
Right.
somewhere.
Well, that's the biggest thing within this. Like I said, I mean, it's taboo to talk about within the breaking industry, but it's gambling. I mean, we're a casino. We're a live
Sure.
casino
Sure.
that people go to, because there are a lot of times where I've had people spend 20, 30,000 in a night and not get a single card back. I've had people
Right.
spend $50 in a night and hit a
Win.
$50,000 card. So it's gambling at the end of the day. But you're right. One thing that we going into this that we tried to represent is, how can we differentiate ourselves from everybody else that's on this platform? For example, I want to say it's 3,500 different channels on Whatnot that break at all times.
Doing the same thing
How
almost.
can we
Whoa.
how can we
Yeah.
as a company separate ourselves from them? And that goes into our production, it goes into our entertainment value, like it goes into our customer interaction, and it goes into our product for the most part. Like, I have very good dialogue with a lot of people across the app, and that's why, we try and hold ourselves to the highest standard on that, and not trying to boost ourselves, but we are the number one seller on that platform for a reason, because we hold ourselves to that standard. We're we're very family friendly, no swearing. We play a lot of music that, tend to represent our demographic, which would be our main target audience, which is mainly, late 20s, mid 50s. And I know that's a big range, more
No.
higher income people that, they hang out and they watch with our kids. We've got a lot of professional athletes that come into our channel and buy a lot. It's just it's an amazing atmosphere, and never in a million years would I ever think that I would be a part and a staple
No
within an
way.
industry so big like this. Like, it's so cool to have connections like this.
I love it. And then the question I have is from a business standpoint, like even with the magazine and, whatever you're doing, you're kind of like have that moment now, but theoretically you're setting the groundwork for sort of like, I guess in a weird word would be diversifying your platforms, diversifying. So you have this production, you have this company. And again, we talked about it earlier. There likely will be possibly ebbs and flows in markets. How do you see stability? One, I think this is truly because you're speaking to your generation. I love that demographic because that means that demographic will be with you for a 20, 30, 40-year period if you play the cards right. How do you see the future of the industry? Like, what's the kind of next right now?
Well, so in terms of cards, Panini is the top producer of mainly sport cards, and they had
Okay.
there's a takeover with Fanatics. So Mike Rubin, whatever his name is, he's going through the process of getting all the licensing for licensed actual sport product. So baseball is already taken over, like Topps Chrome and Bowman Chrome. That's all Fanatic product, and they're in the process of taking over football and basketball. So it's really good. It's a good question, and I don't know.
No,
Because I
right.
know
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know a lot of people don't like Fanatics. I know a lot of people that love Fanatics. So it's going to make an interesting concept in terms of our company as a whole, as I see it in 1, 3, 5 year plans. We are expanding another location. I don't even know if I'm allowed to say it, but I don't care. We are going to be expanding to another location, hopefully down south, and entertainment is going to be our main priority. We already know that we're locked in on this, and that's one thing I love about
Yep.
Zach is that he's always progressive and taking steps forward to do fun things and just different things. So
Yeah.
podcasting is coming up. We have connections. One of our newest hirees, Serena, she's come from actually the Los Angeles area. She was the head reporter for the Los Angeles Rams. She's now on board with us, and she works here. And she's got a lot of connections with a lot of professional athletes.
For
Our
sure.
VIP program that we have for customers that spend, 7 figures a year with us. He comes from, he was an executive at DraftKings, and he's got a lot of big connection with these big names that we can really get in with. The sky's the limit. I truly don't know exactly, but I'm excited, and I took this leap because I trust Zach, our owner, and I believe he's going to put us in a spot to be successful for a very long time.
The vision.
And
Yeah, that's awesome.
I think you nailed it also. I think one of the things that's really interesting is that the right people are interested in what you're doing. And then we'll kind of finish out your segment here with something that I think is kind of, super relevant to this conversation, which is, is lifting sports right now. And a little bit of this market we just spent a half hour talking about, it supports these professional sports in a huge way. And the other one's fantasy football, and fantasy baseball and fantasy. And so that's in the sort of ether and the ecosystem that you're living in. And I think hopefully this won't be the last time we have you on. I think what we'll do is possibly on this, because we're in an area out here, the A-Xii Podcast is sort of divided into three things we can want to talk about. One would be sports, and that would be / fantasy, kind of like sports. The other one is movies, video games. And so we kind of hit it on this one because in the Silicon Valley, through the magazine, we got really good, like over-the-hill contacts with game developers and things like that. But staying on point with this is that I think you mentioned some of these owners and these people that are involved in it. They're smart people, and they kind of understand that the old days of running a 17-game schedule or whatever you do, running playoffs and hoping it all works out for you is over. And these are international brands now. There's international interest in what we're doing. And so when you said that 7 figures and some VIPs, is this big in the international market?
Yes, I mean massive, huge. I have customers from name a country, they're from there. I've got them everywhere, and it's so cool to see it. And you want to know what's even more funny is that we in sports, especially football, not so much. Basketball, Pokemon it blows sport cards out of the market. It's actually insane. That's what I'm saying. I mean, it is.
Do you collect
massive.
them?
Connor? I don't. I was a big Yu-Gi-Oh kid too. I'll tell you what, Drew, my twin brother, Drew, he was a huge Yu-Gi-Oh fan growing up, and I was too. And we had all of our cards saved away. And I decided to break them out, and I got on TCG, and I started selling them one by one. It's kind of something I do on the off days. I make 3-4 cents a card, but it's a lot of fun, and it adds up after a while. And it got to pay for Drew to come home for Christmas last year, so it was fun.
Did Drew keep his cards?
He didn't. He gave them to me to sell, and then so I sold everything. He got a good chunk of change out of it, though. I think he made like $2,000 or $3,000. So
that's incredible! Wow, yeah, from just
kind of cool.
Little childhood.
I don't know. It's funny. My old roommate, he is a Pokemon connoisseur. I have no idea anything about it.
I don't either. I just know, like, sometimes when it kind of looks like that,
shiny,
it's gonna. I'm gonna shiny.
I think that's what you're looking for.
I'm gonna set that one to the side, and so that's the only thing I know with these is, But I think the one thing I want to do, because I have this affinity for Yu-Gi-Oh, a huge affinity for Pokemon, is that Bailey. I think on a regular basis, I think we'll have sports when we have Connor on, but I think, and I do, my instincts are still back. I know what's bullshit, but then every once in a while, one pops in here, and it does kind of make you wonder, It does kind of make you wonder. These little ones are the ones that are worth, they're kind of worth looking at a little bit. And so I'm going to keep this one to the side.
Trading cards have always been so interesting because of like that kind of artificial scarcity. And so like these companies but with sports, it works where they end up being attached to the important MVPs, the best players. Pokemon is so abstract and not attached to anything. It's truly just whatever. If someone decides this is a valuable card, that's the valuable card, and
that's exactly
then everyone chases it. And so like there's no predicting it. It's such a different beast.
It's like Charizard's never going to tear his ACL, so his value's not going down anytime
so he's
soon.
Always going to be.
Yeah, that's exactly right. I would tell you right now, though, if you saw this, the reason I know I'm in the right industry right now is I've got nothing but. I look like I'm an 8-year-old. I've got cards spread over. I got my new comic book from Atlantis, Bug Wars.
I love it.
That's sweet,
and that just came in, and so that'll be part of it too. And then before we let you go, Connor, I think we're not going to spend a ton more time. We're going to do a movie review after this. But the only fantasy I wanted to talk today was kind of closing out the NFL season. But I think for me, Bailey and I are both in a dynasty keeper league. It's just basically sort of rookie redraft. We do a 4-round redraft of rookies only, 21 on our rosters, kind of that classic keep everybody kind of thing. And then you pare it down, and eventually it's 21. But you're fully invested in it. Do you do any dynasty right now? Are you doing any dynasty or no?
I don't. I do a lot of snake, PPR, full PPR, half PPR. I've been asked to do a dynasty, and I want to. I know about it, but I've never played. But I do have a lot of information on it. So pick my brain. I'm ready to rock.
Well, I think the thing where it's more like the only thing right now that we're talking about is sort of like the overall general. There's a weird lull right now, and for me in like dynasty, football, Super Bowl ends, and it's kind of like if you hadn't done your kind of homework in college last year, now's the time to spend 2 or 3 months, and you get on YouTube and you kind of start doing mock drafts are what they are. It gives you a sense of like where you're picking in the draft. But mostly right now is my time to kind of start going through. And for me, and this is Bailey's in my fucking league. I shouldn't be telling him all my secrets. But what I start doing now is I kind of start, and you do this in snake drafts, so there will be a comparable.
For sure.
I start doing my sort of foreseen mock drafts, and then I kind of reverse engineer where are these guys going to land, and then I start looking at coaching changes, offensive coordinator, systems. So because it doesn't matter if you have I'm sitting at 4 and I'm looking at a running back I want. If they're going to go somewhere where they have the 27th ranked NFL, like line, you're going to be in a rebuild where, you want to see those possible like handcuffs kind of going to a place like Philadelphia, or moves where they, who is in line if you're deeper in a draft. I know Shipley's there and stuff like that in Philadelphia, but you can start looking for those kind of scenarios, because I'm not throwing anything on anybody, but those running backs get hurt. And so I start looking at like where am I at in the draft? Who might be there? And then the other one is like, who are they playing for? What's your strategies usually? Do you kind of look at it that way, or how do you look at it?
I mean, it's like you said. I mean, you really have to start your research early, and that's what I wanted to focus on this year going forward. I got bounced in the first round of playoffs, and we run some really big leagues, and I made mistakes going into it where I wasn't prepared during the draft. In my draft spot, I was focused on that 5, 6, 7 spot because that's where I thought it was going to land, and I'm picking 2, and it put me in a tough spot. So. But now that I'm trying to play Dynasty, and I finally am in my first Dynasty league this upcoming year, I think you hit it on the nose with knowing where players are going to be going. Like, I already know that A-Xii Genty is the biggest hype right now in the game, and he's an absolute monster. But he's going to go to the Dallas Cowboys, and that scares me. That scares me with Jerry Jones there. I understand he's taken running backs in the past, and they've done well. Their offensive line isn't getting better. Tyrone Smith seems like he might not be coming back. Zach Martin, I don't know what's going to happen with him. I mean, I don't even know if he's still there. The Cowboys are just a tailwind, and they've got the Eagles and Eagles defense that they're playing against. Washington is going to load up on their defense, especially on their defensive front with Fedarian Mathis and this whole awesome defensive line. Like A-Xii Genty, I think he might go 1-1 in this year's dynasty, and I don't love it. I would rather, and I know this sounds crazy, but taking somebody safer like a tight end like Loveland, who might go to the Chargers or might go to the Bengals with Joe Burrow, and you utilize that 1-2 with Jamar Chase, like that's what those quarterbacks need. And I think those are a longevity hold that you can play out in the future. Those are going to be some guys like Travis Kelce or like the Penn State kid. I can't remember his name. He ended up winning the.
Oh yeah, shit. I'm spacing his name right now too. But I think you're onto something there, and that's something I do in our last 2 or 3 years in our Dynasty League, is that there's huge opportunities because, one, the tight end position's down for a little bit, but I kind of see myself in our league as tight end university. I've even gone back-to-back tight ends, but then I'm sitting there with, last year at one point I had Kelce, McBride, and Laporta. And that was mid-season. And so because I just invested, I went back to back, knowing that Kelce from the year before, and then kind of invested in Laporta, and then week 1 had a really good feeling about. I didn't draft McBride, but picked him up after week 1. But by week 12, you're sitting there with 3 of the top 4 tight ends. So I moved Laporta.
Right, it's great trade equity. I mean,
that's exactly it. Yeah,
for something that you need moving forward, and that's something I never thought about. I always just said, all right, starting my lineup here, I go wide receiver, running back, tight end, quarterback. That's how I've always ran it. And I'm going to take a different approach this year. I really am. I'm trying to hone in on some players, corner the market, and use that as trade equity. So.
And then there's the lesson, though, Connor. The lesson is like a Bailey. Bailey is what I think you call in the business. He kind of drafts chalk. He basically is chalk, which means that
people win like that.
And he's done it twice.
It's so annoying.
And it means like guys like us are sitting here talking all the smart things, backup linemen for the Dallas Cowboys.
Right.
And the reality is because here's what happens sometimes, and this has changed so much from when we first started fantasy football, is that the chalk right now, with the way that Fantasy Pros and Yahoo and all of these, basically the information they're delivering you on draft day and the way they're ranking players and putting players in front of you is so sophisticated. It's not like it used to be. I used to have friends that tried to do it that way, and they'd be drafting guys that got hurt the day before because nothing was updated. But right now, you can kind of basically show up even in Dynasty. Bailey has a team like that. Like Bailey ends up, he's sitting there with Saquon. And so, he's got a team that kind of puts him out in front. Right. And then eventually, it's not even like Bailey. Don't you feel like that, Bailey? Sometimes you don't even come knocking. People come knocking on your door.
Yeah, I've never initiated in my life for a trade. Yeah.
But he cashes checks. And there's a lesson in there. There's a lesson in there where I think you can do your homework, but I think but also there's sort of that you can't overcomplicate a little bit. That was awesome. Hey, we're going to let you boogie so we can get to our couple little reviews. But if you're cool with it, we'll have you back on again, be a little more organized.
I would love it.
This was awesome.
This was awesome. Thank you, guys.
Yeah, thanks for hopping on.
This was so great. And so you can bail out, and then Bailey, we're going to move into our – you haven't – unless you Connor, have you seen that movie, Flow?
I don't think – oh, is that the wrestling movie?
No. The Flow.
I don't know.
It's completely different. If you ever want to zen out, basically it's a hour and 35-minute movie, 40-minute movie, no words, animated. I think they did the whole thing with, it's an animated movie about it's kind of, what would you call it, Bailey? Like a dystopian kind of future where the world.
Like kind of almost post-apocalyptic maybe, but
just
check
it out.
It's kind of just like about a little involuntary adventure of a cat, basically.
Here, Connor, stay on. Connor, stay on. I'm going to show you the trailer because that's how we're going to start it. And you can jump off after, but I think you're gonna dig this. Hold on, let's see, share, and then I'm gonna share my screen, and I'm gonna go to Flow. Look at me, I'm like a real life producer here. Let's share.
Nice.
Let's see if this goes. Bailey, I think I read something that this was all done with AI. I might be bullshitting right now. It might have been, but I think they did a lot of this.
I'd have to check that out.
Feeding the script into artificial, so that the AI animated it.
Oh, interesting.
And so, Connor, it's like this dystopian kind of future where we've lost our gravitational pull with the moon and only animals have survived, like with the tides going up and down.
Wow. This looks kind of cool, I'm not going to lie. I would watch it.
Oh, it's amazing.
Interesting.
It's actually kind of like this weird emotional movie. Like, you're watching it and you're like, fuck, man.
Well, yeah, there's no dialogue, so it tells its story by just kind of making you feel these emotions.
And it's got cute dogs in it.
Yeah.
Do you go to the movies a lot, Connor?
Every week. Every Tuesday, we have half price tickets.
Oh, awesome.
So me and my girlfriend go every Tuesday. We skipped last Tuesday because of Valentine's Day, but
sure.
We saw Nosferatu and can't remember the other one.
What'd you think of It
was okay. I thought it was good.
Yeah.
The cinema was phenomenal, but I couldn't understand what the guy was saying the whole time.
Yeah, right.
But it was good. It was good. The other one we watched was actually a lot better, and it was a lot more action in it. Have you ever seen the show The Boys?
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
The main actor in that, he's the boyfriend. He's the star actor in this movie, and he basically bought this robot to be like a companion. That's what it's called.
Yeah. We just saw it a couple days ago too. Yeah.
It was
How
good.
was it, babe?
Yeah, it was good. Yeah, it's like just like a kind of action thriller, like Connor said. Yeah, it's a fun. It's like a AI kind of horror story to some extent, a little bit. Yeah, it's fun.
I'll tell you what we saw a shockingly good movie. We just stayed home on Friday and we watched a show called Better Man. And it's a documentary of a singer called Robbie Williams. He was in a boy band in the 90s. His life went to complete shit and then he rose back up. It's a classic sort of like rockumentary, but he wrote the whole thing. He stars in it, but he decided the only best way to tell the story was the main character is him, Robbie Williams, as a chimp. It's a man chimp.
Yeah, I have heard about
trailers for that.
I'm telling you, watch that movie. I
kind of wrote it off when I saw that trailer, but I'll go check it out.
You're realizing when you're watching it, because sometimes he's so raw and emotional with the whole thing. The only way he can tell the story is the fact that can only go so far with the way he wanted to tell it, especially with his drug abuse and all these things, was through not being an actor. It's unreal. Really worth watching.
I do remember that. Coming out. But...
Yep. All right, you're out of here,
Sweet.
Connor.
Awesome. Thank you guys so much.
It was good talking to you, man.
Thanks, brother.
Great talking to you guys.
We'll talk to you soon. See you, brother.
We'll see you later, man.
Bailey, what do you think? Let's get him. Oh, he's gone. That was awesome.
Yeah, he's the best. Have you ever met him? I can't remember.
I feel like I met him one time at their house in passing. It would have been it would have been that kind of one where it's like, I don't even know if you guys are going to last. I'm not going to invest too much in this.
Kid. Yeah, exactly.
These weird people in our family right now. So
yeah, I was just wondering. That's funny.
We kind of watched. Let's save this because I think we're already at 50 minutes. Let's save the review for the game.
Perfect.
For the next one, because we just got so much more out of Connor that was good. That was incredible. Awesome. I mean, it was such a good interview, and we can finish up talking about, so we can put it in the captions and stuff. Flow.
Yeah, it was a weird movie for me. I would say, like, when the credits rolled, I wasn't fully into it. It was one that after I kind of sat with me for a little bit, and then I was kind of processing it, I started to respect everything that happened a lot more. And I didn't do any research beforehand, so I was shocked 5 minutes into it when I realized they weren't going to say there's a no dialogue type movie.
Yeah.
And so then I've really had to kind of just readjust my perspective of what I was watching. But then it's just kind of a nonstop adventure. I thought it was really awesome. Like, it ended up, I think, kind of giving me like a good amount of like anxiety, because it's just event one after the next nonstop. I mean, if you're going to get invested at all, you're rooting for that cat, and he's almost dying a pretty horrific death every 10 minutes.
No, and I think the thing about it, like, as far as, I'm going to go back quietly to the Flow trailer here, so we can kind of see it as we're, I don't know, is that Sharon? Is that pulling it up again, or is I'm doing it wrong?
Yeah, I'm seeing it. It'd be better full screen.
Let me see if I go full screen. Hold on.
Yeah, there you go. Now it's good.
There it is. And we'll talk about as we kind of finish this one up a little bit, but I think I know what you're saying. And I would say this, that I think you have to be, for that movie, huge high marks for me, but I do think you have to be like in a certain mood when you go to it. Have to be
total.
It's a meditation.
Yep. No, and I think that's why it wasn't landing for me when I was first watching it. And like I said, I just kind of had to readjust what I thought I was watching. And it starts to come together more. And it was super interesting. Like, I spent the first half hour wondering, even like, just is this Earth or not? And then they pretty plainly tell you with that big alien whale that don't expect these animals to be animals, because this isn't the world, at least. And so it was super interesting to watch those kind of the animal behavior. I thought was so interesting, where like in that trailer, just a cat being a cat climbing a pole, but then the next moment it's steering the boat and they're going to a very specific destination. And so the animals all having very human behavior at some moments, and then going right back to just how a pet would act was super interesting. And at some moments, I think that was kind of like the jarring stuff that took me out of the narrative. And I spent too much time trying to figure out what was going on, rather than kind of letting it happen to me.
I wonder if there's some truth to it, and I got to find out. We should do better when I do my homework on these. But if there is some truth to the fact that was possibly like co-directed with AI, it could be some of the maddening parts of when I work with AI, or we do, is that you can't quite communicate all the way what you're trying to get done. And maybe you felt a little bit out on the other side of the screen, which is that part where I can't quite connect those dots a little bit.
Yeah, no, I think that would explain a lot. It'd be super interesting. Yeah, I'm definitely going to research that. But it's cool.
What do you think?
It was beautiful. Like, even if I'm super interested to see what the AI involvement was, because I was obsessed with the art style. It's such a fun.
Totally.
I mean, inspired by realism, but with enough just kind of artistic kind of touch on it that made all of it just work really, really well. It was a super cool movie. Beautiful shots.
I totally agree.
Yep. And again, it just has to be like, there's no success in that movie if they can't do visual storytelling, and they nailed it. All of the.
What was that other one you guys were talking about called Companion?
Yeah, that was with what's his name? Something Quaid, but from Jack Quaid from The Boys. Yeah,
the dark-haired guy, the kind of like the younger dude. That's Dennis Quaid's kid, right?
Yeah,
the old actor, Dennis Quaid's kid.
No, I know. Yeah. But it's cool. It's like a probably near future world where like these kind of robot companions are the norm, and he's got a robot as his girlfriend basically, and they're like on a weekend trip, and then it kind of starts to, I don't want to spoil the movie, but it kind of starts to devolve, and you find out that he's messed with her programming and has some shady ulterior motives, and then she kind of becomes a little more sentient than she should be, and it gets a little graphic and violent, and it's fun.
I love those movies. I'm telling
exactly,
you,
right. That story's been told before, but it's still really entertaining.
Yeah, at this point right now in my life, I can't get enough of it. All right, well, let's boogie out of here.
And fun.
I think that was. Can you hear that a little bit?
Yeah.
We got to figure that part out. So it's like, so there was one part where you're saying like you couldn't. I'll play around. So the beginning,
it's just playing so much louder than your own audio is all. I don't know.
Right now it is.
Yeah, I can hardly hear you over the music.
How's that?
Same.
But it balances. You still can't. So I've got the volume all the way down here. So I'm going to get rid of that shit, and then we're going to call this episode. Then I'm going to figure that out. Later. Hey, this was awesome, and then that's fun. It. And so we'll see everybody. I don't know what this will. I'll try to. Usually I can fade this out on the back end, but if not, we're just going to say peace out and let the AI edit this episode.
Yep. We'll trust the robots, the companion.
All right, buddy. See you next time.
I'll talk to you.
All right.
Bye.